Good evening and welcome to another episode on Let's Get Loud. This series we are starting is called The Priceless Legacy. We'll be hearing the story of Jeannette Campbell, spoken by her daughter, Dayna Campbell. We will be exploring what Jeannette left behind, which was a godly legacy, a legacy that is still bearing fruits through her daughter and her entire family, and also her extended family in the children she nurtured that were not her maternal kids, but kids that she ensured that the love of God was seen through, and they too today are bearing fruits that will remain. Dayna, thank you so much for coming on Let's Get Loud and just sharing with us your mom's legacy, the priceless legacy that she left behind, and how you, Dayna, have benefited from this, still benefiting from this, and how you are shaping your own life based on what your mom left behind. Dayna, talk to us. Tell us
Thank
about
you so
Jeannette.
much, Ingrid, for having me. And I'm just so honored to be able to talk about my mom. She was like the love of my life.
Oh,
And she passed away, I think it was 2015. So she's no longer with us, but I am just humbled to be able to have the privilege to share her legacy. Her
yes.
legacy is not made of dollars and cents, but it is truly priceless.
Ah,
So, yes.
thank you so much. So, can you just tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how your mother's legacy really charted the course for your life and her life and the lives of others as well?
Hmm. Okay, so my mom, well, I'm from Montego Bay, Jamaica, and my mom, she grew up in a section of Montego Bay called Irwin. Um, she had seven, it was seven of them. She was the last child. So, people always say, "Oh, she's spoiled," but but the truth is, my mother was just like none other. She
Wow.
had a unique love for people.
When you say unique love, can you just share on that a little bit?
Well, I don't know if it's too early for me to tell you how much I I criticized her for it because I thought that my mother and I are so different. We look very different. I'm very tall and slender. My mother was very short and a bit fat, and she but she she was so loving to almost, like, I thought she was a little naive with it because she would just meet
Wow.
a stranger and start conversation and tell them her personal business and all that. And I'm like, Mommy, like, people don't need to know all of that, like. And I remember being on a flight with her once, and the people next to us started eating some fruits that they had brought with them on the plane, but they couldn't bring it into the country. I think they were
Right.
into the, and they started to eat the fruits, and she started to make conversation with them about the fruits and enjoying the fruits. And I don't know what I was going through as a teenager, but I found that just the most annoying thing. I'm like, Mommy, you just can't leave people alone. And the amazing thing, Ingrid, is that now, as I'm older, as I'm getting into sales and marketing and stuff, like, I wish I had the gift my mother had to
Mm.
just approach people and make conversation and just see them with a through eyes of purity. It's
Wow.
almost like she definitely carried the love of God with her, and she would just pray it out on everybody without reservation.
Without reservation. I'm
Without
glad you touched on that because a lot of us, we think that we don't have the gift of building relationship because it's quite clear your mom had the gift of building relationships. And I just want to have you talk a bit more on some of those relationships that she built on.
Sure. So mom was she started out at Herbert Morrison Comprehensive High.
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
they changed the name recently.
Right.
But she was a teacher, and then she became the guidance counselor,
Okay.
and she was in charge of the welfare division. And
Mm.
she kind of was the welfare division. So, like, yes, they gave her a budget, right? And the budget could only go so far and no further. And so she,
Mm.
at one point, she had daddy baking cakes to send to sell, or she would do extra things to sell things to increase the amount that she would have to give to the students. And when it got to the point where she didn't have enough and there was still a need, she would call her friends.
Wow.
Her She had a list of people that she would call. And as one lady said at her funeral, you just know you cannot tell Jeanette no, because they know when she calls, she's not one of those not for profits that have this big admin fee where they have to pay the CEO $1 million. She's
Mhm.
not taking any of the money. As a matter of fact, she's going to make it up out of the little that she has. And
Wow.
they know this, and because of that, people just would, oh, Jeanette, okay, how much you need? And they would just say, all right, send your husband for it, because mommy also didn't drive. She loved to have her husband take her
Oh,
everywhere. So
oh.
she was just this wonderful wife, mother. And she only had two biological children, myself and
Mhm.
my brother, my younger
Right.
brother. But when she couldn't find the help for some of the young people, and they had situations at home that was just far less than ideal,
Mm.
she would just take them home. She
Oh,
would
you
just
mean take them into your house?
take them into our house to live with us. So I just grew up knowing that I grew up knowing that I don't have a bed that's just my bed, or a room that's just my room. Like, be prepared at any time to
Wow.
share your bed, to share your food, to share your clothes, to share everything, because whatever we are blessed with, we have to be prepared to share it with those who are less fortunate.
Oh, wow. So how did that make you feel?
To be honest,
Mm.
because it didn't change after I got to a certain age to become like that. It was just always like that. So I never really thought of it that it should be any other way.
Okay. So
That's
that became your normal.
It's definitely my norm. Even now, actually, one of my sisters who had moved in with us when I was 8 years old,
Right.
and that was many, many years ago,
We
she
won't ask. We won't
like,
ask.
uh
We won't ask.
thank you. She's like my sister, and she she sent me a picture with an outfit that she had on. I'm like, I just barely remember. I'm sure it's probably like 10 years ago that I stopped wearing those clothes. But she has a way she keeps them neatly tucked away. So every once in a while she takes out something new and she puts it away again, and then she takes it out to make it look. And I'm like, boy, this is amazing. I just love to see her. And she dressed herself nicely, because I have a way of, I guided her on how to change her look, because she used to sell in the market, and her mother had told her she's not sending her to school unless she sells off everything.
Oh,
Everything at the
God.
stall had to go before she could go to school. And so because of that, she became this amazing salesperson. And I keep
Wow.
telling her she needs to be in sales, but because of that traumatic experience for her, she doesn't want to sell. But just to change her image from not really caring about her appearances
Parents.
to the point now where she has a more professional look. So I'd always, be sharing my clothes with her, and I'm not waiting until the clothes. I'm making sure to give her things that I still would want to wear, and she
Wow.
keeps and she wears them, and she sends me pictures all the time and stuff like that. So
So
it,
what is
it
she doing now as a professional? What is she doing now?
she works at the tax office.
Okay. So she
Yeah.
never went into sales.
Never. As a matter of fact, she uses her sales skills in the tax office. So you will come to renew your your license, or something, and you could pay for a whole year, but you're only paying for 6 months. And she'll say to you, "Why don't you take the hassle out of it and pay for the entire year?" And like, she'll talk them into paying for more time, but she goes above and beyond for her clients, and so they're always bringing gifts for her, and they just love her. And I call them her clients, because people almost like look out for her, even though she's just at the head of a line that anybody can join. She just really takes pride in whatever she's doing.
Wow.
I just admire that. And when she had a child, my nephew Joshua, she was able to come back and spend some time with us. And so even though I have a child, my mom passed, and that was the only grandchild she knew.
Oh, wow.
That was her son.
So how
So
long did she live with you guys?
she only I don't remember how long. It was, I really don't remember how long,
Okay.
probably like
Hmm.
5 years. And then
Okay.
she moved out and lived with another teacher for a little while, and then she was on her own. But she always stayed very close. I mean, Christmas, she's coming to spend Christmas with us every Christmas. So it's like, even no matter where she goes, we are family. We just
Wow.
know we are family.
So your
So
mom really made a great impact on her then.
totally. And
Mm.
not just her, there were several others. And what mommy would in particular, she would notice, especially the ones that had a lot of, like, they were doing well in school, but
Hmm.
their home environment just was not conducive to them being able to get to school on time, or even they didn't have enough money because they lived so far away. Transportation cost
Right.
probably been so high, and she would sometimes bring them home, and then she would tell daddy, kind of like on the way home. I think they were just perfect for each other, because he would, she would enroll him into what she's up to with these girls and trying to help them. And then he would end up having to, dip into his pocket, of course, to help the mission, because it's not like she's taking them on because she has so much money. She
Right.
just knows this person needs a chance, and my home is a home where she will thrive, and I'll make sure they get to school on time and they get a hot meal. So that's all she was about. And that she did that to so many. Those she couldn't bring home, she even found other homes for them.
Oh.
And there are many. I remember once, there's this lady, after she passed, I was walking in the town in Montego Bay,
Hmm.
and that lady stopped me and she said, "Oh my God, you're Miss Campbell's daughter." She said, "Listen, that lady, I will never forget her, because I gave up on my son. He was giving so much trouble." And she said to me, "Pay for a few subjects for him." And I refused. She let me know she refused to pay for her own child subject. And mommy, after a while, stopped compelling her. She's like, "You know what? It's okay. I will find the money to pay for the subject." So she thought that because she wasn't going to pay for them, it wasn't going to be paid for.
Right.
No, no, no. Mommy was unstoppable. She called everybody and she found a way to pay for the subject. And the guy passed 5 subjects. And the lady had tears in her eyes saying, "Boy, I gave up on my own child, and that woman would not give up on him." And that's the kind of mother I had. And that's the kind of mother I pray that I am for my child. That kind of example, because it's really what we do for others and what we do for the Lord that matters.
Yes.
And
Yes.
God was her like everything. She was just so bold for him.
When you say bold, can you just dig a little bit deeper into that and share some more about that?
You don't have a conversation with my mother without her talking about the love of God. It just
Mm.
doesn't happen. She
Mm.
just, I don't know if she even had to try to fit it in. It just had to come out, because she was just so full of his love.
Wow.
And I remember, even when she was sick, she battled cancer for several years, and
Yeah,
then
we talked
afterwards she
about
had
that.
to stop dyeing her hair. She had cut her hair very short, and she had stopped dyeing her hair, and she didn't like the way it looked because she wasn't used to the grays. And I said, "Mommy, man, come on, you're getting too vain. Come, everybody miss you. Let's leave the house." And I dressed her up, and I was visiting at the time, and I dressed her up, and we went out on the road, and she was a little timid. Anyway, we went in, I think it was Fontana Pharmacy in Montego Bay, and I went off for a little while. And when I came back towards the cosmetic counter, she was finishing up a prayer with a young lady. I don't know if she knows this lady. Mind you, she does know a lot of students. And I said, "What happened, mommy? She not feeling well? You prayed for her." She said, "Well, I led her to the Lord. I said, "How you have a conversation in 10 minutes with somebody to know that she even wasn't a Christian?" Like, that's what was on her mind at all times, even when we were in the hospital. And she thought she was dying because she had developed some complications, and the doctor looked worried. And she said to me, "You know what? I think this is it." but she had made peace with the Lord. She was okay. She's like, you know what? I have battled this thing. I'm just ready to go home. That's her home.
Yes.
And I remember she just started to beam. And everybody who passed, the doctor, do you know my Jesus? Do you know the Lord? And she just went on, and she was just a little too happy. I was almost embarrassed. I am crying for her to stay, and she is just wanting to tell everybody about the Jesus she's about to meet because she's happy to go home. So her perspective and mine, and I had such a tough head. Like, it took me quite a while to shift in my perspective of to be able to appreciate who she was. And that shift actually happened when we did a seminar in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
called the Landmark Forum, to
Wow.
be honest. That shift happened, one conversation that they had, it was like a group coaching session.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I had pushed her away because I just didn't feel like I was living up to the expectations, or I felt like she would talk about her children so much that I felt like I was on some sort of a pedestal, and I knew I was not living up to the standards that she had set, and my dad, as Christians, and I'd been making mistakes and failing, and I just
Your parents, your dad was a pastor, am I correct? Or is a pastor?
he's a pastor, yes,
Right. Okay.
a pastor, and so they made sure to me, the best gift they gave us really was teaching us to love the Lord. They would wake us up every weekday morning to have devotions. And even though while I was going through it, it was not fun sometimes because I just wanted a little more sleep sometimes. But as I got older, I so appreciated them doing that, because those healthy habits help to keep me even now. Life has so many stresses, and just to
Yes.
know that you don't start your day without getting in touch with your maker,
Right.
that really just helped to create some healthy habits in us. And I think it helped to save us from a lot of things that we could have gotten involved in that would have sent us off in the wrong direction in life.
Yeah.
My brother and I in particular.
That's so true. And speaking of that, we just want to end right here because I want us next week to just pick up on your life and the way you went away from what your mom did. Your mom built relationships. Your mom made sure everybody knew about Jesus. Even when she thought she was dying, she was telling them about Jesus that she was going to see, and how your path took another direction. But it circled back to the core of the priceless legacy that your mom left behind. Dayna, thank you again. And we'll see you next week. Viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to the Priceless Legacy. You heard a bit about Jeannette Campbell and the impact she made through the welfare programmer, or the welfare program that she was, and how her legacy has impacted and is still impacting people in this world. So until next week, thank you so much again for joining us. And remember to hit that subscribe button, and also to ensure that notification bell is on so you won't miss the next episode of The Priceless Legacy. Let's get loud. Let's get loud.